Coming up, Jonathan and Todd dive the wrecks of Chuuk with rock guitarist John Wesley and discover some amazing artifacts. Welcome to Jonathan Bird's Blue World.
John Wesley is an American guitarist and vocalist, most famous for his work with prog rock band Porcupine Tree. And more recently with alternative rock band Vertical Horizon. Because I'm a huge Vertical Horizon fan, in late 2024, Christine bought us tickets to see them play live. She also sprung for some VIP passes so I could meet the band. I took one of my Paul Reed Smith guitars for them to sign. And it now hangs with pride in our living room. So I'm talking to John Wesley at this VIP event, and we were talking about music and guitars. I noticed that he was wearing a dive watch, so we got to talking about scuba diving. And the next thing you know, he tells me that his bucket list dream dive destination is Chuuk Lagoon. And it turns out that Todd and I are going to be there in 4 months for Blue World. So I invited him, and he said, "You know what? That sounds awesome. I'll go with you guys." And so the adventure began with getting there. It takes several days to fly to Chuuk on the other side of the world, and we have quite a few plane tickets.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 flights.
Todd and I meet up with John, known to his friends as Wes, in Hawaii for a route called the Island Hopper. It all starts out pretty well. So, we're currently sitting on the runway in Majuro, which is an atoll, the first atoll in the Island Hopper route. So to get to Chuuk, you fly from Honolulu to Majuro, to Kwajalein, to Coast Ride, to Pohnpei, to Chuuk. And we got one stop in, and we're behind schedule, and now they are changing the whole thing, and we have no idea how we're going to get to Chuuk. Thanks, United Airlines. You're the best. Reluctantly, we leave the airport in Majuro. We have to spend the night.
Wow, isn't this fun?
So as it turns out, we did get stranded on Majuro. And as we expected, there are actually no hotel rooms. So it was basically we were going to sleep on a hard concrete floor in the airport, which is not air conditioned, and this is the tropics. But Wes over here made friends with a local kind of diving legend who was
dive community.
Yeah, and
he is the dive community.
And he invited us to stay at his pad, and he's got quite an interesting place. You got to check out his backyard. Look at this. There's like a Scooby-Doo shipwreck basically in his backyard. Yeah. And he's got like his house is surrounded by like all of these shipping containers, and I don't know, it's kind of an interesting place.
Kind of?
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting place. And we got here in the middle of the night, and it was dark, and it was actually, I'll be honest with you, we were a little scared. We were scared. I was scared. I thought we might die. But it turned out to be quite a fun adventure. The next morning, we're back in line to board.
Of 3 flights, we've boarded planes about 6 times. Yep. We've had one crew member nearly die on us. We've also just had incident after incident, and now they're telling us maybe our bags may or may not be on the flight, that they're jettisoning most bags from this flight. So we'll arrive, but not necessarily our gear. Yeah, fun.
Finally, we take off and escape Majuro. Only 4 more islands to hop. It took us like 3 days, but we're here. We're finally here.
We don't know where here is, but we're here.
We are here, look.
State of Chuuk.
Here it is. There it is. Boom! We made it!
Here we come.
By some miracle, our bags made the flights, and we board the Truk Odyssey liveaboard with everything we need.
We are finally here. Whew. All right, let's go diving.
Located in a remote part of the Pacific, Truk Atoll, now known as Chuuk, served as an important base for Japanese naval forces and supplies during World War II. The large protected lagoon provided safe anchorage for a whole fleet of ships. In early 1944, the United States launched Operation Hailstone, a siege of Chuuk to remove the Japanese occupation. Over a 3-day battle, the U.S. Navy sank 10 Japanese warships and 30 supply ships. They also hit the island ground facilities and aircraft before they could even take off. The attack created the largest single collection of sunken ships in the world. Today, more than 80 years after the Battle of Operation Hailstone, Chuuk still maintains legendary status as the world's top wreck diving destination. Even rock stars get excited about diving here.
I'm going diving with Blue World TV. Can you believe it? In Truk Lagoon, halfway across the world. I slept in a shipping container to get here.
Luckily for us, we all get the rock star treatment on board the Truk Odyssey, a luxury liveaboard dive boat that's almost as legendary as the wrecks themselves. This huge vessel will be our home away from home, not to mention dive shop and restaurant, for the duration of our trip.
All right, guys, so the way our dive's gonna happen, we'll jump off the back of Odyssey. We have the SMB line on the top of the superstructure.
Our dive master, Hunter Viverito, gives us a pre-dive introduction to the wreck of the Nippo Maru.
We can check that out so we can get a good view of the iconic helm stand, the telegraph, and the speaking tubes.
We don't waste any time getting suited up. Wes is going old school with open circuit dive gear and a big 120 cubic foot steel tank. Todd and I are diving our KISS Sidewinder rebreathers. And just like that, Wes is ready to go. Meanwhile, Todd and I are still working on it.
Almost there.
Hunter waits patiently. He was ready like 10 minutes ago.
It feels super uncomfortable, so it must be right.
The Sidewinder on a boat is a cumbersome beast.
It's heavy.
But underwater, it's a thing of beauty. Wes is in, and off we go. We drop straight down to find a massive ship rising out of the sand. As seen in a stunning 3D model by our friend Holger Boos, the ship sits mostly upright on the seafloor at just a slight angle, ready for us to explore. Launched in 1936 as a private merchant ship, the 107-meter-long Nippo Maru was requisitioned by the Japanese government for military service. Unfortunately, the Nippo Maru ended up in Chuuk during Operation Hailstone. Aerial bombardment sent her to the bottom of the lagoon. Floating above the deck, Wes gets a little GoPro video as Hunter continues descending into the #1 hold. We all follow Hunter inside the wreck. He points out a pair of bronze rangefinders, but there isn't much else around. It turns out this hold mostly carried water. And guess what? It still does. We swim through into the next hold where there's even more water. But then Hunter motions for us to follow him back up on deck. There we find a Type 97 medium tank. It doesn't look very big to me, but somehow they managed to get 4 crew members in there. It's missing the 57mm cannon on the turret because they were removed for travel. This tank went down with the Nippo Maru, probably without seeing any action. And yet, today it may be the most famous Type 97 tank in the world. Lying on deck, not far from the tank, is a first aid box. There's also an entire truck chassis complete with drivetrain. Where the rest of the truck went is a mystery. Soon, Hunter takes us back inside the ship. In the next hold, we find a little museum display. Gas masks and ammunition have been laid out on a fallen beam. Down in the bottom of the hold, boxes and boxes of ammunition and supplies. With Wes on a single tank down at 120 feet, he's starting to get low on air. So we ascend to the bridge. This is one of the best places of all the wrecks in Chuuk. The compass and telegraph remain in remarkable condition. After Wes has a good tour around the bridge, Hunter accompanies him back to the Odyssey.
That was an absolutely stunning dive. Amazing experience.
While we wait for Hunter to return, Todd and I poke around the bridge and get a few shots. The telegraph looks like it could still work. A few minutes later, Hunter is back. He's wearing double tanks, so he can keep up with the rebreathers for a little while longer. And he's really excited to take us inside a deeper section of the wreck. We enter through a giant crack in the hull, down by the sand at 150 feet. It's the engine room. This place is big, complicated, and rusty. So there's cave line run around the room. On rebreathers, we make no bubbles, so we don't dislodge sediment from the ceiling. And we try to use our best cave diving frog kicks to maintain good visibility. Since the wreck is mostly upright, the stairs and ladders all go in the right direction, so it's not too confusing. Hunter has been in here a million times, so he knows where all the cool stuff is. I love the old gauges, some of which you can still read. I mean, if you can read Japanese. Looking up, we can see light from 3 decks above. But we don't have to climb the steps. We can just float up there, stopping along the way to film stuff. But we don't go all the way up and out. Instead, Hunter squeezes through a narrow doorway. As it turns out, side mount isn't actually very useful in a shipwreck. Todd and I have to turn sideways to get through every narrow door. Our trip through the wreck pops us back out on deck next to a couple howitzers. Hunter absolutely loves this wreck, so he takes us back inside yet again. The narrow hallways prove challenging for us. Fortunately, they aren't all narrow. We get a tour through the crew quarters. Then Hunter goes around a corner and straight up into a hole in the ceiling. We pop back out in the bridge. The helm with its 2 gauges looks like the face of an old man wearing goggles, or maybe a robot. Now, with Hunter getting low on air, we all make our way up to our first decompression stop. We have about 15 minutes of decompression. And then a nice ride on the diver elevator out of the water. Every boat should have one of these.
Wow, such a great wreck. So many things to see on that wreck.
When my first dive in Truk Lagoon, I got in the water, I was overwhelmed. I hadn't been in the water in 25 years. I had all these things I had to figure out, and I was flopping around like a fish. But you and Hunter and everyone really took care of me, guided down, and then there it was, this big, beautiful wreck that I'd only ever seen in magazines, only ever seen on YouTube, and there it was happening right in front of my eyes.
If you bring a guitar player on board, you just might get some sunset entertainment.
Well, it's 6:30 a.m., day 2. We're gonna go have some breakfast and then hit some amazing wrecks. And I feel like today we're gonna see some really cool stuff.
The rebreathers require a little more prep than open circuit, so Todd and I have to start a little earlier than everyone else. We have to fill our sorb and do leak tests. Then it's time to dive. Hunter and Wes are all set up and ready to go, while Todd and I are still putting everything on.
Could have brought my dive top Go. This would have been super easy. But no. Todd wanted to bring sidewinders.
This time I decide to try using the cool elevator to go into the water. Soon we're all descending to the wreck of the Sankisan Maru. As the wreck comes into view, we see a lot of twisted metal. The Sankisan never took a direct hit from U.S. ordnance, but in fact caught fire after being strafed. She was carrying so many bombs as cargo that the resulting explosion basically blew the back of the ship apart. The captain had wisely evacuated the crew early in the battle, knowing they were vulnerable. Many parts of the ship have so much marine growth that there's no detectable trace of the metal underneath. Soft coral, sponges, clams, gorgonians, algae, and all manner of marine life encrust the ship. Even if you're not much of a wreck diver, the colorful marine life on this wreck can provide a lot of stunning visuals. Todd and I could spend a whole dive just filming the outside of the wreck. But we won't linger on marine life for long because Hunter has stuff to show us inside, with Wes in hot pursuit. The floor of the hold is littered with medicine bottles. Nearby, a truck frame missing its body, but at least it still has a steering wheel. We swim across to the other side of the hold where Hunter points out a big lump. Looking closer, the telltale sign of cooling fins reveals that this is the 14-cylinder, 1,100 horsepower radial engine of a Japanese Zero fighter, probably being shipped in as a replacement for one of the Zeros stationed on Chuuk for defense. Even after 80 years underwater, it's a marvel of engineering and design. Eventually, Hunter drags me reluctantly from the engine and we swim over boxes and boxes of small arms ammunition, most likely the Japanese 7.7 by 58 rifle round, which was introduced in 1938. Many of these cartridges still have dry powder inside and would be considered live rounds, although they are too corroded to ever fit into a rifle action. We cut through the ship to a doorway and pass a giant pile of metal forging crucibles on the way out. Although we aren't making any bubbles, air from the open circuit divers collects in the ceiling and bubbles out through the holes. As Wes is starting to get low on air, we make our way up to a shallower part of the wreck. We pass another truck chassis on the way. Even the tires have growth on them. Soon we head back to the mooring line.
That was an interesting dive. I've never seen a wreck so blown in half.
During lunch, they move the Odyssey to a new spot, and Wes reflects.
I think I'm going to sleep for about a week when I get back because it is go, 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 and nothing disappoints. There's almost too much. There's almost too much to do. So it's an amazing boat that we're on. It's just start to finish. It's just fantastic.
And there's no sitting around. After lunch, we prepare to dive another fantastic wreck. The Rio de Janeiro Maru was a large luxury passenger ship built in 1929 that got her name from her most common route between Japan and Brazil. She could carry more than 1,000 passengers in comfort. The Imperial Japanese Navy requisitioned the ship in 1940 and converted her into an armed transport ship. Then a submarine tender, and finally a POW prison ship. She was based at Truk during Operation Hailstone and sunk by 1,000-pound bombs. This massive 140-meter-long ship now rests on her starboard side at 30 meters deep. A big, complicated wreck to explore. We begin by following Hunter from the mooring line at the bow across the wide expanse of the sideways hull towards the stern. The metal makes a perfect surface for corals. You almost don't even know you're diving a wreck. Eventually, we approach our first area of interest, the port prop. Then we continue to the stern, where Hunter points out where you can barely still see the name of the ship. Working our way forward, we find the large stern gun completely overgrown with marine invertebrates. Pointing towards the stern, this gun means business. Because the ship is on her side, the deck is nearly vertical. But if you flip the camera 90 degrees, it almost looks right. Unlike many of the merchant ships enlisted for military duty, the Rio de Janeiro got outfitted with some serious hardware. We poke around in the stern area for a while, swimming into different accessible places in the wreck, looking for cool stuff. As we work our way forwards a bit, Hunter leads the way into one of the holds. And we hit the jackpot. We find racks and racks of rifles, rusted and overgrown, but still recognizable. And as we swim down to the bottom of the hold, we see hundreds of beer and sake bottles, necessary supplies to keep the troops going. There are cases of bottles still stacked up, even though the ship rolled on her side. That's a lot of beer. We slip around into the next hold where I find a topsy-turvy staircase. It looks fine if you hold the camera sideways. But if I orient the camera so it's level with the horizon, the staircases are sideways. An electrical panel has switches and gauges. Wes had a really good tour of this wreck, but he's getting low on air, so Hunter and Wes depart for the surface. With Hunter gone, Todd and I don't really know where we're going or what we're seeing. But that doesn't stop us from spending another half hour getting the benefit out of using rebreathers to extend the dive. So we immediately find another place to explore. As I swim horizontally into what looks like a hatch, I'm actually swimming down a staircase. Shipwrecks on their sides are so incredibly confusing. I emerge into a room with a catwalk around it, and it's hard to separate up and down from left and right. My senses and my eyes can't agree. We're in the engine room, where there are all kinds of cool gauges and valves. Because we're exploring without an expert, Todd stays on the outside of the room within sight of sunlight and keeps an eye on me through the door. His lights keep me from getting disoriented. I can't help myself from doing the same camera trick again. This is what I see based on the position of the wreck on its side. But if I flip the camera 90 degrees, that's the way it should look. Finally, we swim out of the room, horizontally, not vertically. The exposed valve train of the engine is still clearly visible. There are more gauges and a light, complete with an intact light bulb. With our decompression time climbing, we reluctantly depart the engine room and make our way back towards the bow through one of the gangways. When we reach the bow area, we're right under the Odyssey. We make our way back to the deco bar, where we spend some time before heading up to the surface.
Last dive, amazing dive, perfect visibility, amazing wreck. What a week, what a beautiful blue world.
For all of us, Chuuk Lagoon was a once-in-a-lifetime diving adventure. Todd and I are lucky that we get to do this kind of thing more than the average person. But for Wes, Chuuk was a true bucket list dive trip, and I'm so glad we could share this epic adventure in the blue world. If you want to learn more about John Wesley and his music, or you're a fan of rock guitar, check out his YouTube channel, The Journeyman Guitarist. And don't forget to leave a comment and subscribe.